Picture a governor sitting in front of a camera holding a bright orange box of donut holes. Not at a fundraiser, not at a kid's birthday party. In an official video, posted to her own account, to explain why your electric bill keeps climbing. She lifts up a glazed munchkin and tells you it represents wind power. She jokes that messing with Dunkin in her state is never a good idea. And she does all of this while running a state that has some of the most expensive electricity in the entire country. Her name is Maura Healey. She has been the governor of Massachusetts since January of 2023. Before that, she spent 8 years as the state's attorney general, the lawyer who built her whole career suing companies on behalf of consumers, the self-styled fighter for the little guy who promised to take on the powerful and bring your costs down. By 2026, costs were the whole problem. People were opening utility bills that had doubled, and her answer, on April 6th, was a box of Munchkins. But here is what almost nobody who shared that video stopped to notice. There is one number sitting underneath this entire story, a number her own regulators collect every single month, that turns a cute little donut skit into something a lot harder to laugh at. If you have opened an electric bill in the last year and felt your stomach drop, this is your story too. And it gets stranger because 3 days before she ever picked up those munchkins, tens of thousands of people had already stood up and told her exactly what they thought of her. So let's start with the donuts. The video opens with Healey talking straight to the camera, holding a box of Dunkin Munchkins. She says she wants to explain energy in a way that everyone understands, and then she holds the donut holes up like flashcards. Picture it, she says. It's 9 in the morning, nobody's eaten breakfast, someone shows up with a box, and suddenly demand is high, but there are only 25 to go around. That, she explains, is where the state is headed with energy. Then she picks out a glazed munchkin and announces that this one is wind. Massachusetts already has offshore wind lowering your bills as we speak, she says, and the state is going after geothermal, nuclear, gas, hydro, the whole menu. She points to an executive order she just signed that she claims will bring enough energy to power 2 million homes and save families and businesses money, and then she lands the joke. You and I both know messing with Dunkin in Massachusetts is never a good idea, she says, because when everyone gets a munchkin or two, everyone's happy. It did not go over the way she hoped. Within hours, the clip was everywhere, and the most repeated reaction was 4 words. She's laughing at you. People who actually live in the state pointed out the obvious thing the donut metaphor skated right past. You can't eat a glazed munchkin to stay warm in February. And notice what the video never once contained. Not a single bill number. No projected savings for an actual household. No breakdown of what a real family in Worcester or Springfield would pay next winter. No data at all. Just pastries and a smile. One commenter put it bluntly, noting the state rejected new natural gas pipelines, which means expensive shipped-in fuel, which means the high prices are the direct result of her own decisions. And underneath the cute supply and demand cartoon was a real executive order with real consequences that the donuts conveniently distracted from. So what was she actually announcing while she had a box of pastries in her hand? Hold that thought, because the answer matters more than the joke. The point is, this was the moment a sitting governor decided the right way to talk to people drowning in energy costs was a breakfast snack. But the donut video wasn't even the first time that week the public turned on her. Because to really understand what was happening here, you have to rewind 72 hours to the night of April 3rd, opening day at Fenway Park. The Red Sox were hosting the San Diego Padres, the stands were packed, and as part of the pregame ceremony, Governor Healey and Boston Mayor Michelle Wu walked out onto the field. This should have been the easy part. A friendly crowd, a beautiful afternoon, a photo op in the bluest of blue states. Instead, the moment they appeared, the stadium turned on them. More than 36,000 fans, with some counts putting it at 37,000, booed, loudly, relentlessly. Not a scattered heckle, a wall of sound that rolled across the whole ballpark, and the cameras caught all of it. The footage went viral before the game was even over, and the people who pounced first were the Republicans lining up to run against her. One gubernatorial candidate, Brian Shortsleeve, posted a video from the ballpark saying Healey and Wu just got booed very loudly, then added it was even louder in person. Another candidate, Mike Minogue, posted his own clip with one line, "Looks like fans want someone else up to bat." A third, Mike Keneally, simply wrote, "Man, I love Red Sox Nation." Think about what that takes. This is Massachusetts, one of the most democratic states in America, a place where a Democrat can usually walk into any room and expect applause. And a sold-out crowd booed the Democratic governor and the Democratic mayor off the field at the same time. That is not a fringe reaction. That is a warning sign flashing in the bluest sky there is. But here's the thing, and I want to be honest with you, neither the boos nor the donuts are actually the real story. They're symptoms. The real story is that number I mentioned at the start, and it's time to show it to you. So let's talk about what Massachusetts families are actually paying. As of the spring of 2026, electricity in Massachusetts costs around 33 cents per kilowatt hour. The national average is roughly 20 cents. That means people in her state are paying about 65% more for power than the typical American household. Depending on the month, Massachusetts ranks either second or third most expensive in the entire country. And this isn't a blip. The average residential electric rate in the state has climbed about 41% since 2020. 41% in 5 years. Now picture the donut video again with that number in your head. A governor of the state with nearly the highest power prices in America holding up pastries, joking about Dunkin, while her residents pay among the steepest bills anyone in this country pays. Critics point to specific decisions. Massachusetts blocked expansion of natural gas pipelines that could have brought in cheaper supply, even though the grid leans heavily on natural gas to keep the lights on. Add in the state's renewable mandates, its membership in a regional carbon program, and a stack of surcharges layered onto every bill, and you get one of the most expensive grids in the nation. And these aren't tiny charges. Across the state's three big utilities, Eversource, National Grid, and Unitil, customers don't just pay for the electricity itself, they pay for the grid, for public benefit programs, for efficiency mandates, all bundled into that 33-cent rate. One conservative policy group estimated the typical Massachusetts power bill has jumped close to 80% over the last decade. To be fair, Healey has her own answer. She blames Washington. Her administration argues that federal rollbacks of energy tax credits alone are expected to push electricity prices up another 10% in 2026, and that tariffs and permitting delays are making everything worse. That's her defense, and you should hear it. But here is the question it never answers. If your bills are already the second highest in America, does a box of Munchkins make any of that better? And here's what makes this whole thing land even harder. The most damning admission in this entire story didn't come from a Republican challenger at a baseball game. It came from inside her own administration. Because months before the donut video, Healey said the quiet part out loud herself. Back in October of 2025, the governor flatly declared that energy bills are already way too high for Massachusetts residents and businesses. Her own words, not a critic's, not an opponent's, hers. And it didn't stop there. By her January 2026 State of the Commonwealth address, she was announcing emergency measures, temporarily cutting electric bills by a quarter and gas bills by 10%, covering part of the cost with state money because the situation had gotten bad enough to require a rescue. Read that back slowly. The same governor who held up donut holes to reassure you that everything was under control had already admitted, on the record, that bills were way too high and had already been forced to spend public money bailing ratepayers out of a crisis she presides over. So put the whole pattern together. A crowd of tens of thousands booed her in April. A donut video made her a national punchline that same week. The hard data shows her state with nearly the highest power costs in the country. And her own administration confirms the bills are crushing people. This isn't a story about one bad video. It's about a governor managing the optics of a crisis instead of the crisis. And they know the prices are still going up because by their own projections, they're climbing another 10% this year. So what does all of this actually mean? Here it is, the part that the donut metaphor was built to keep you from sitting with. The number underneath the whole story is this. Massachusetts has among the highest electricity prices in the United States, roughly 65% above the national average, up about 41% in just 5 years. That is the reality a box of Munchkins was supposed to make feel manageable. And that's the through line connecting every piece of this. The booing at Fenway wasn't random anger, it was people who pay those bills. The donut video wasn't harmless. It was a governor treating a genuine affordability crisis like a snack time cartoon. The price data isn't an abstraction. It's the second highest power bill in America landing in real mailboxes. And the admission that it's all too high came from her own mouth. 4 separate things, one pattern. If you followed this all the way through, you now understand this story better than most people who only saw the funny clip and scrolled on. You know what was sitting underneath it. Awareness is the whole game because you can't fix what you've been distracted from seeing. And the verdict is simple. You cannot solve a crisis you're busy joking about. Patterns like this don't stay in one state, and neither do we. So if you want the next breakdown the moment it drops, hit subscribe and turn the bell on. Drop a comment below and tell me the moment in this video where it clicked for you. Because the next time a politician hands you a cute little metaphor to explain why your bills are exploding, you'll remember a governor in front of a camera, holding up a glazed munchkin calling it wind, while her state paid nearly the highest price for power in the country.